Real stories.
Hello and welcome back to Real Stories, the podcast that celebrates the weird and wonderful world of stories. As always, I am Rowan.
And I am Tom. And we've got two stories with us today. And it's our mission to figure out whether those stories are true or the narrative of a film. And today is a very special episode because for the first time, we are being joined by a special guest. And we've got with us today Mr. Connor Edmonds.
Hello, everybody.
How are you feeling about being live on the waves?
We're not live.
We're not live. But
We're not on the
live,
sea either.
But yeah, I've wanted to be on Real Stories podcast for many years.
It's 3 weeks since it
A
started.
live
It's like
dream,
3
is it?
Okay, so tell us just a little something about yourself, please.
Something about me. I like football.
Nice.
We're in with a treat today, folks. Before we jump straight into it, let's just give a little overview as to what we've got coming up. So my story today is an unbelievable tale of a casino who set a challenge to 6 competitors, which ended up showing both the best and the absolute worst of human nature.
Interesting.
Well, mine is about a molecular biologist who questions his very existence after experiencing not one, but 2 almost impossible coincidences.
Oh my goodness.
I like impossibilities. They get me going.
Real stories.
Who's going first this week?
I shall go first.
Okay.
And we're going to meet
Assertive.
a man called Donald Sinclair, who is a hotel tycoon. He owns a very successful casino in Las Vegas.
Nice.
And, you know, he's a man with money. And you know what people normally do when they get lots of money? Stupid things, basically. Run for president, buy every company under the sun. But this isn't about Donald Trump or Elon Musk. This is about Donald Sinclair. So his weird thing when he got all of his money was to think, I need to offer a proper USP to my clientele. I want to create a game that people can bet on that's unlike any game that's ever been betted on before. He finds 6 competitors and he says, there's $2 million of cash in a train station locker in Silver City in New Mexico. Whoever gets there first, which is 563 miles away, can keep that completely tax-free.
Like Mr. Beast.
So there's a lot of competitors. There's 6. So we're not going to meet them all too much, but I'll give you an overview as to who they all are. Okay. So there's 2 brothers, Dwayne and Blaine Cody.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they
They
rhyme.
sound cool.
There's a businesswoman called Meryl and her mother, Vera. There's a disgraced American football referee called Owen. And there was a man called Randy and his family. And there was an Italian tourist with narcolepsy, which is also important.
Okay.
And they're called Enrico. And then there was an attorney called Nick.
Oh, he's just Nick.
I'm not going to expect you to remember those names. I'm not going to remember them either.
Yeah.
But we're going to see how a few of them did, okay? We won't go into all of them because it was a very long story.
Okay.
Do we know how he found these competitors?
They're just all in need. They're all quite skeptical at first and they refuse to partake. But then he just goes, time is on. The challenge
Wait, but
has
you
started.
just said they signed up for this.
Maybe he said, do you want to partake in something? And they're like, yeah. And then they get there and he's like, you have to go 562 miles to get some money. They're like, oh, CBA with that.
Yeah.
Really?
How much money was it?
$2 million.
I think I'd be doing it.
Yeah. My God.
Well, you're not on this list, so these people were a bit more skeptical. Because you'll doubt it, you know. There's the murky morals in that world, aren't there?
I think I'd pay for an Uber. Go get it.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, I'm afraid.
You're going to get the money back. You might as well.
The only other thing that I didn't mention is that all of the people that go to the casino are going to bet on who they think's going to win. So there is an income as well for Donald Sinclair.
Oh, good.
It is a bit
Good.
Squid Gamey as well.
It is quite, and most stuff in the world is quite Squid Game these days.
I was getting a bit worried for Donald doing all this.
He's got
What's
something
he
to
getting
get out of it.
What's the little man getting out of it?
So they've started. The timer has begun. They're all just like, I'm not doing it. And then as soon as the clock starts ticking down, they're off. Okay, the race has begun. None of them stay behind, apart from, unfortunately, Enrico was narcoleptic, wasn't he? So he has fallen asleep at the start line.
Come on,
So
Enrico.
he did not do well. But I've chosen a few stories to go down of like who did what. Okay, so we're going to go with Dwayne and Blaine Cody first. The most phonetically pleasing names.
Yeah, like that.
Their first trick, they destroyed the local airport's radar, which means no one could just fly there.
How are they doing this?
They just drove into something. I don't know.
What?
I don't have the logistics. All right. They drove into something at the airport. It destroyed their car, so they had to rent another one. When they rented that car, they thought, there's 2 of us, so let's split up. If we split up, we're kind of doubling our chances of getting there first.
Yeah.
So they go their separate ways, but they have one key to the locker because everyone's been given a key. So they think, oh, we need to make a copy. So they take it to a locksmith, but the locksmith then hears what the key is for, and he's like, I want a bit of that.
Oh.
So he makes a third copy of the key and he joins in the race.
They're like wacky races there.
But it's going to sound even more like it in a second, because not only does he make a copy of the key, he then sets off in a hot air balloon.
that is the
Locksmith
worst.
has a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
How
don't
far
question
are
it.
they going?
Don't
How
question
far are
it.
562 miles. But
in a
he,
hot air
but he
balloon,
doesn't
and
know
he's
that.
thinking, this will do it.
He doesn't know that, I don't think. I don't know what he's
What
thinking.
do you think's happening then?
He's probably on something. We're in Las Vegas here. He takes all the keys and the brothers start chasing him. So they've really not got off to a good start.
Yeah.
But we're going to leave them for a bit. And we're going to meet up with Meryl and Vera, who are the daughter and the mother. But they again crashed their cars. Lots of car crashes. I didn't even think about how many car crashes in this. And they ended up getting on a bus that was going in the direction of Silver City. But on the bus was a group of patients who were heading to an asylum.
Why?
What? Why are they going to an asylum? That's individual. I'm not going to go into
If
that.
I need to transport some patients to an asylum, I'm not like, oh, get on the 50 bus. Like,
No, it's not a public bus. It's a...
well, how are they getting on it
Oh,
then?
it must be. I don't know. They've clearly got their ways. Again, we're in
Have-
Vegas.
they have
People
their
do things
ways.
in Vegas, and you have to not question it. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of
All right,
questions
okay.
and not many
I
answers.
do have a lot of questions.
Yeah. We're going to go over now to Owen, the referee. And his first thing was to get into a taxi, as you said, Connor. He makes good progress in this taxi until he starts getting into discussion with the driver, and the driver figures out who he is. And it turns out that this driver is a massive NFL fan. And he says, "You're that guy who made that massive error in your decision that made my team lose that final." And he says, "Get the hell out of my car.
Oh my God.
You are worse than Judas to me. Football is life." He then impersonates a bus driver, and he gets onto a bus that is full of Lucille Ball impersonators, and she's an actor.
Why is he like, well, the first taxi was a dud. You know what? I'll just nick a bus or something. What's he done?
He's
Impersonating
impersonated
the
the
bus
bus driver, and he's driven this bus full of impersonators
Okay.
until the bus was flooded with soap suds, which I think is something to do with Lucille Ball. That's that character maybe. They all have these things, and it floods the bus, and he ends up crashing. This does say he ends up crashing into a cow, but we'll leave that. The impersonators realise he's not a real bus driver, and they chase him away. And can you guess what he gets to Silver City on in the end?
The cow.
A horse.
Oh.
A similar four-legged animal. We've left Owen on a horse, and we're going to join Randy and his family. He is desperate for this money. I'm going to assume they're in need. Okay, maybe they've got bills to pay, they've got holidays to go on, they've got family to buy gifts for, they've got food to nosh. Okay. So he says, we're going foot down the whole way. The only thing we're going to stop for is petrol, or whatever they say there, for gas. If you need the toilet, suck it up. Literally and metaphorically. Okay. That is a horrible breach of human rights, but Randy clearly doesn't care. His wife, she convinces him that they have to stop because it's not fair. So they stop at a Barbie museum because they think, oh, well, you've been in the car for a long time. Our daughter loves Barbie. It turns out it's actually a museum for the Nazi officer Klaus Barbie.
Oh my God.
And
I bet that's doing good numbers these days.
So obviously when they get in there, they just kind of back out awkwardly, like, this is not our place. And
Yeah.
But when they get outside, two of the other contestants from the race have come across their car and sabotaged it.
Has any car survived so far in this story?
No, this is not a good story for
It's
cars.
really not.
So what they do,
It's like a Top Gear challenge. This.
what they do is they rob a car from the museum, and that car turns out to be one that was driven by the worst human being to ever have lived,
Tom Dooner.
Adolf Hitler. So they've actually just stolen one of Adolf Hitler's cars.
Oh, that's all right.
He's convinced by his wife and his kids, like, we're not doing this anymore. I don't care about that money. We'll go home. We'll find other ways of making money. But he says, yeah, sure, go to bed then.
Oh no, Randy.
He puts sleeping pills in some milkshakes
Oh no.
and feeds them to his family, which is horrible. Yeah, that's wiped the smiles off our faces, hasn't it? And they make their way to Silver City. Enrico and Nick have their own turbulent journey, but they do make it, all of them, to Silver City, okay? Who makes it there first? It doesn't really matter, because they get into a fight to open that locker, and when they open the locker, there was nothing inside.
Oh, no.
And this whole story has been about treachery and deceit. Donald Sinclair's assistant, it turns out, had made her way there first, and she'd just taken the money and gone off with it. So all of this was worth nothing because an inside person had already got the money. So these poor people were fighting for an empty plate. But the locksmith from earlier,
He's back, is he?
might have had the most straightforward journey. Literally, he went as the crow flies.
What kind of balloon is this?
Hot air.
Yeah, but are we talking like a blimp or like a hot air balloon you see him just floating around Bristol? Like what?
I don't know. I don't have visuals,
Because
unfortunately.
they're not fast.
No, but it sounds like everyone else wasn't fast. They went via the Nazi museum and... Let's settle back into the story.
Sorry, Tom.
The locksmith catches them, and he ties the suitcase to the rope on his hot air balloon to be like, I'll let go if you come closer. And then he accidentally does let go and it floats off into the sky. They all chase that balloon. I'll give you £100 if you can guess where that balloon ended up crashing. Actually, I'll give you £1,000 and I'll shake on it.
Like the Grand Canyon or somewhere like famous.
Okay.
The Nazi Museum.
It crashes at a Smash Mouth concert.
What? Smash Mouth.
Smash Mouth, the band that are made famous by Shrek. And this money crashes, and because this is a big public fundraising event, Smash Mouth and the crowd assume that this is some sort of publicity stunt and this is money that's being donated to the cause. And just as the racers all get there, Smash Mouth are like, was this from you? And they're all like, yeah, I guess. And then he's like, yeah, thank you so much. They see the impact that this money would have on the people that are going to have it, and they all actually one by one just slowly agree, like, you know what, hands up, have it, that you're a better cause than I am. There's $2 million.
Smash Mouth.
Smash Mouth, the charity.
So Smash Mouth are performing to raise money for something.
Right.
So that this money's now gone to that cause.
Okay.
And someone, I don't know who it actually was, but someone steps up to the mic and they say, just one final touch. However much you make from this fundraising, Donald Sinclair will double it. And Donald Sinclair's there and he's like, oh my God, this is the worst day of my life. And for once, the big bad guy comes out of the story the worst off. Okay, you could say that he was looking kind of dumb with a finger and a thumb in the shape of an L on his forehead.
Nice.
I love Oasis.
Is where, and that is where our story ends.
Wow. What an adventure.
That is an adventure and a half.
It really is. Wow. Okay.
There's a lot to unpack there.
So, any questions straight off the bat?
I have a lot, but
what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Is there anything particular you think this has to be real, this has to be a film? Because it's one of all the other.
Before we get into that, Connor, there's a few things you need to learn from experience.
Okay.
It sounds mental, and it sounds narratively like it could be a film, but that doesn't always work out. Okay.
Yeah.
This is probably real. I'm thinking.
I promise you, we really do. I go to the library for this sort of stuff. I really dig for these stories.
Also, I have a vague memory of maybe Smash Mouth had a thing with money once. But I don't know. This was the backstory.
Once got paid for something.
I feel like if you're making a film though, and you need a real band in the film, it was going to be quite easy to
Yeah,
get.
Smash Mouth. Yeah.
I'm leaning towards film.
The tense countdown has now started. Can you please put forward your final answer? Is this story about the money and Smash Mouth and all the chaos, is it true or is it a film's narrative?
A film's narrative.
Oh, thank God.
We won.
You are correct. The reason I chose it because I was like, this is so ridiculous, even as a film narrative, that it kind of goes full circle and it sounds like it has to be true. But it's a film called Rat Race, and it's directed by Jerry Zucker, who did make Airplane and Top Secret and Naked Gun.
Okay.
And it's a proper like goofball comedy, and it has got some amazing set pieces in it. It's very funny, of course. But correct, well done.
Well done.
You've
Connor.
got 100%
Steered us
record
in
so
the right
far
direction
on
there.
Real Stories, Connor.
Thank you.
Real stories.
For the first time ever, Ronan and I are going to sit in the passenger seat and we're going to go along on the story journey, and Connor is going to drive.
I hope
Do you
it's
wanna
not
sit
a
on my lap?
passenger seat from that last story. Okay, so my story begins in America in the early 2000s, and I want to introduce you to Dr. Ian Gray, who's a molecular biologist. He's 26 years old, and he's a PhD student in New York.
Oh, he sounds like an overachiever to me.
So basically, for his whole life, Ian has had this fascination with eyes. He goes up to random strangers and says, "Can I take a picture of your eyes?"
Oh, I bet he's got a lot of friends.
Yeah. One day, a new trainee student arrives, or to give its official title, a rotating lab assistant, and she's called Karen. So basically, Karen.
So does she
arrives-
constantly spin on the spot?
I was literally gonna do the same joke.
Yeah, she rotating Karen, we'll call her. She's pretty serious about her work. After a few comments that she makes, he realizes that she could be like the real deal. The thing that he's working on at the time, he's working on trying to make colorblind mice be able to see color.
Oh, this could be helpful for me.
Are there 3 of them?
Yep.
3 colorblind mice.
And while they're working, he's just, going about his daily life, and he goes to a college party, and he meets a woman there called Sophie Elizondo.
Nice.
It's a Halloween party. She's got a like a hat, but it goes over your whole head and you can only see your eyes.
Okay, like a balaclava.
Yeah, sort of like a balaclava. And he's like, instantly sees her eyes and he's thinking, okay, I'm interested in you.
All he can see is the eyes.
All he can see is the
Oh my
eyes.
God, he's perfect woman.
Hey, do you want to play I Spy, where I spy every time and I'm just spying at your eyes?
So the thing is, he's particularly fascinated with her eyes because she's got a condition called central heterochromia, which means that there's two colours in the same eye, which is quite a rare condition. They become madly in love and he moves into her flat. They do often clash though because Sophie is a very spiritual person.
So you're saying they didn't always see eye to eye?
I like
Nice, it's the fun of the day. So we're kind of having like a Darwin versus Adam and Eve situation here. It's like, who's telling the truth here?
Exactly, yeah. So
Okay.
they have lots of arguments. He's basically saying God hasn't created the eye. While they're being in love,
Meanwhile,
while they're busy being in love, Karen's, working away at the lab.
I forgot about Karen.
Oh, Karen, yeah.
Yeah.
Bit part
Rotating
Karen.
Karen.
Rotating Karen.
She makes a breakthrough in the lab because she finds a PAX6 gene master switch.
Oh,
She
yeah.
didn't.
She did.
I think I found one of them the other day, actually. Didn't make a big deal out of it.
So she finds it in a worm which is blind. So basically anything,
Aren't all worms blind?
and they don't have eyes.
Well, I'm not surprised he's blind then. Or it's not actually, it's not he or she, it's a hermaphrodite.
I think the thing is, worms don't have eyes.
No.
So they shouldn't have this gene. That must prove it isn't created by an intelligent designer. It is a mutation.
So Karen's aware of this discourse going on between this couple, and she's like, right, well, I've got the proof. I've got the proof that God doesn't exist from this worm.
Well, yeah, so I think everyone who works in that, field
Yeah.
is working along the same lines. They're not open to the spiritual world.
Is this the field where she dug up the worm?
Yeah. That specific field. After Karen has called Ian and said, I've made this breakthrough, come round right now with the champagne. This is going to change our lives. In the lab, they're making out.
Now? Is now the time for a makeout?
Yeah, Karen feels...
We've done it. The worm's got eyes. Come here.
No, but they don't know that yet, do they? Karen's coming in to tell them this news.
Oh, Karen's
she's
coming.
called them and said, come in. So he does know that...
Oh.
He like sort of vaguely knows the news.
Okay.
They go back to Sophie's flat. As they're going up in the lift breaks. It's in between floors. They're pretty screwed. He manages to reach up and he sort of like knocks open a door and pulls himself out and puts his hand back in to help her out. He tries to pull her out. She's halfway out.
Oh, is this going to be gruesome now?
It might be a little bit gruesome.
Oh, no.
And the lift suddenly shoots up and it has cut Sophie in half. Yeah, so he's pretty traumatized.
That's fair.
He locks himself away for weeks. Karen is basically on her own in the lab again. So she goes round, tries to help him through his grieving process. They end up getting together. Ian and Karen are now a couple. And they spend the next 7 years working on this theory that they've come up with about the worms.
I'm still not 100% sure what the theory is.
It's not the theory, not that God doesn't exist. Sorry, carry on. Otherwise, we'll be here forever.
Yeah, after 7 years of working together, he publishes his book, The Complete Eye, and Karen falls pregnant. They basically agree with each other that they're going to start doing experiments on the baby.
What?
Nothing
goodness.
weird, just eye experiments.
Of course, okay. So what sort of experiments are they going to do? Like, does it hurt when we put this in our
Punch you in the
baby's
eye.
eye?
I think there's lots of scans you can do of the iris.
If it scans, we'll let him off. Yeah.
Karen has the baby Tobias he's called. And while they're in hospital, people can consent to having their baby's eyes scanned. And they're like, yeah, we know all about, scanning eyes. That's the department we work in. That's absolutely fine. Go for it. Basically, everyone's iris should be completely unique. When they enter it into the system, it comes up as a match with a random man, a man called Paul Edgar Dairy. And they're like, okay, we'll just enter this iris scan into the system and everything's going to be fine. And then they find out that Tobias was conceived at pretty much exactly the same moment that Paul Edgar Dairy died. I think the hospital are thinking there's some kind of link between this iris scan and the brain and memories and these two being linked.
So he's
Edgar Dairy.
like the reincarnation.
That's what they're thinking.
They say this baby is not dairy free.
They want to know a bit more about what's going on. So they contact one of Ian's old college friends because he has access to this iris scanning database. It has hundreds of millions, almost 1 billion scans of irises from people all around the world. They contact the guy that Ian used to work with and basically say to him, can we just, put some pictures of eyes of people that we know into the system and see if anything weird comes up. Everyone's irises should be completely unique. They start putting in a few different people's eyes. It just comes up with their eyes. It shows the last time they were scanned at Heathrow Airport 10 years ago. Except when they put in Sophie's eyes. Sophie, who was decapitated.
Was she decapitated or was she delegged?
She was cut in half. Is that not decapitation? Decapitation.
No,
is your
decapitation
head.
is your head.
She was cut in half.
Oh.
They put in a picture of Sophie's eyes, but it comes up with a match with somebody in India. And they're like, how on earth can this possibly be the case? When nobody in the world should have two irises that match. How can we have already had one with Tobias and Paul Edgaderi?
Yeah.
And now we've got one with Sophie and some random girl in India. They start doing their own investigation experiments, and he goes to India and he finds out it's a young girl's eyes called Salamina, but it's going to be almost impossible to find her. So he has the ingenious idea of putting a billboard up in Delhi of Sophie's eyes and says, if these are your eyes...
I would not recognise my eyes.
I have no idea they were my eyes.
I don't even know what colour
I
eyes
have no
are,
idea.
really.
What
Yours are beautiful brown.
You would recognise your eyes if you had the condition that Sophie had, which
No,
was
it's the
very
double.
rare.
No,
It's
the
the
double
double
one,
eyes.
yeah.
Yeah, the central...
squashy
I
eyes.
have double
cranium.
eyes. Everyone's got that. Other than the Cyclopses.
Yeah. So there's two colours in the eye and there's a very unique pattern in the eye. So you would, if it was your eye, you would recognise it. So he gets loads of calls from people saying, I think it's my eyes. And then he basically asks them, how old are you? If it's not the age of the person he's looking for, he just is like, right, sorry, it's not you.
Puts the phone down.
Yeah, exactly.
A waste
Because
of time.
he knows he's looking for Salamina, but he obviously doesn't want nuisance calls or whatever, so he doesn't put that on the billboard. He's there for weeks. He keeps on getting false leads, false hope, until eventually he sees a little girl looking up at the billboard in awe, thinking, hold on, they're my eyes. So he goes up to her and asks her what her name is, and she's called Salamina. So
He's thinking, there's a strong chance it's you.
he takes her to his hotel room and he shows her pictures of things associated with Sophie. He's working with Karen and they're thinking, if she matches up with all the things that Sophie knew and loved in her life, this is going to be one of the most unbelievable, groundbreaking things that's ever been discovered, because it would basically show that people with same irises would have shared memories. But the experiment doesn't really prove that. It has a 44% success rate.
Still higher than religion.
On the lineup of pictures of different people, Salamina does pick out Sophie, which, it's like a 1 in 3 chance, but it's still weird. And as they're leaving, he goes to get in the lift and she starts crying and she just flat out refuses.
Oh, no.
She will not go in the lift. The experiment didn't prove that, but he had two people in his life, his son, Tobias, and his ex-girlfriend, Sophie. Their irises matched somebody else in the world, which is statistically, it should be impossible. Nobody in the world should have two irises that match. And he has two people in his life.
Incredible.
Blimey.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start with trying to
that's a
figure out
lot,
if that's
that's a
true
lot.
or film.
Do you want to just tell us?
If it ended at there's just two people who have the same iris as somebody else, I'd be like, oh yeah, fair enough. But when they have shared memories, that where it kind of enters into the world of
but they're
impossibility.
not like so. I don't know. The baby was just looking at pictures, so the baby could have looked at. The baby wasn't like, oh yeah, I recognize that. It just looked, and then the kid didn't really like. There was only 40%, but then started crying in an elevator, which is like, I mean, if you just scared of elevators, you would cry. So they're all plausible.
Yeah, isn't it like causality, not correlation, something like that?
Yep.
I think so. Maybe this is just a really elaborate story that someone came up with when they had a baby, and then the partner was like, why has our baby got the same eyes as the milkman? And they're like, let me tell you a tale. With so much detail and some like visual elements in there, I think a film.
I think it's a film.
Well, we're in agreement then.
Yeah.
So,
But that usually means it's the opposite.
yeah, so Rome thinks it's a film, so we're going to say it's true. No, so it's a lot of detail. There's a lot going on. But I can imagine sitting in the cinema and at the end being like, whoa, that was a lot. It washes over you. So, film.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well done. It's a 2014 film called Eye Origins, released in 2014 and directed by Mike Cahill.
I think I would enjoy that.
Never heard
Have
of
you seen it?
I have seen it. Yeah, it's now on Amazon Prime for
Not
£3.49.
sponsored. Is it good?
Yeah, I would. I think it's worth a watch. There are the eyes, as you can see, 2 different colours. You can't see that on the podcast.
2 films this week. I don't think that's happened before.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
We love our films.
Real stories.
Well, there we go. Thank you, Connor, for being on this week. And before we go, we'd just like to thank our sponsor. And this week, it is the satisfying tingling feeling you get after taking off your socks under the sheets after a long day. Tom, would you like to tell us a bit more about the satisfying tingling feeling of taking your socks off under the sheets after a long day?
We'll start at the source, our advert, okay? We're going to go to the sock. In the morning, the sock gets slid onto your feet, and it's not going to enjoy it. And throughout the day, it gets stomped all over the world, okay? Whatever you do, your feet does it twice, okay? Because there's 2 of them, and those socks, they get sopping with sweat. They see everything that a sock sees, which is the inside of a shoe and the bottom of your foot. So that satisfying tingling at the end of the day when you take your socks off is beautiful. But imagine how beautiful it is for those socks when for the first time in 12 hours, they get to look out and they see the world, and your feet are a distant memory.
That's the most passionate I think you've ever been for one of our sponsors. I love that. We'd also like to thank our other sponsor, Q Podcast. And if you're looking to start a podcast of your own, or you just want to take a pre-existing one to the next level, Q is the professional production company you need. Yeah, they're pretty cool. We like them, don't we?
Awesome stuff from
We
them.
love them. We love Q Podcast. If you'd like to start your very own podcast, then email them at hey@qpodcast.com or head to their website, www.qpodcast.com. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And why not check out our brand new Google form, which is available in the description, where you can send in your very own stories and maybe we'll read them out if they're good.
Yeah, so what we want to do is compile a few stories that neither of us know whether they are true or a film, and we want to read through them, and we want to try and break down the detail. And
Bit of
figure it
level
out.
playing field. For
Tom
once.
wants war films.
Yes.
Yes, send them in.
That's pretty much everything this week. So thank you very much for listening or watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Adios.
Bye.
Real stories.